hardships, the joy and tears, 50 years that have come and gone, loving heartache made us strong.
Kim, so again, I appreciate you taking the time in your schedule, because I know for a fact, in speaking both with Eric and fans of yours, that you're a very, very busy lady. So thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And let's start with the obvious question, which is, why the tuba? I mean, there's so many things I could ask you off the hop from all your experience in the music industry, but what is this love of tuba, and what do my listeners and audience need to know about the tuba that makes it so special in your life, that it's so prominently featured, whether it's on an album cover or just in everything that you do? What is it about that instrument that really does it for you?
Well, everybody always asks why the tuba, and my answer is always, why not? I am one of the first female tuba players in Canada, and I paid a pretty high price for that, I'll say, but I'm happy I did, because now there's so many women in brass, and it's just fantastic. I'm so excited. And, you know, how can you not love an instrument? You have to hug to play it. It's just, you know, and it has this beautiful, big, warm sound that you more feel than hear. And on this recording, though, I do get a little bit of a burn and get a little funky with it, but it's the versatility of the instrument that I really love. And it's just always been with me. It's been with me since I was 13 years old.
Well, and if we go back in time, I'm trying to remember what it was like being in grade 6 or grade 5 band and being asked which instrument I wanted to play. And myself personally, I chose the drums. I needed to be a percussionist. It was just something that kind of attuned itself to my incredibly manic and frantic personality as a young boy. But as a girl, I distinctly remember that the popular instruments ranged from, you know, everything from the flute to the clarinet to maybe the French horn. But tuba always seemed to be something that there was one kid that really loved the tuba and no one else. Everyone else kind of thought, hey, it's too heavy to lug around. It's going to be, who wants to schlep around, 20 pounds of brass instrument? You at 13 clearly felt that's exactly what I need to do.
Well, actually, we were given 3 choices of what instrument we wanted to play. I chose trumpet, which I still have an absolute love for the trumpet, and flugelhorn especially, which has influenced my writing, I think. And alto saxophone, and then I think flute was third. I was given the tuba because I had great teeth. That music teachers give the kids with braces and crooked teeth the instruments that are easier on the face if you don't have good teeth. So that's why I was given a euphonium, and the trumpet players used to kick the back of our chairs all the time. And there was the tuba section, and they had their own chair and their own stand. And I thought, that's for me. So I went to my teacher and I said, I want to play the tuba. And she said, no. And I said, no, seriously, I want to play the tuba. And she said, no. And she turned around and was talking to somebody, and I kept bugging her. And she said, okay, if you can get a pedal B flat, you can play the tuba. And I said, okay. So I went and got this great big, huge, they had those great big double B flats, and I was 4'7" at the time. I'm only 5 feet now. And I put the mouthpiece in, and I said, what's a B flat? I didn't even know. She said, open. So I just took this big, huge breath, and I let out this sound, and she wheeled around to me and she said, you're playing the tuba. And that was it. And I've been playing it ever since, and I love it.
Outstanding, especially considering how in the brass section of any orchestral experience, live experience, it almost is an afterthought sometimes, isn't it? Because there's so many other interesting solo style instrumentation that can happen. Yet I find it interesting that the tuba can be both like a bass guitar and a lead guitar, in the fact that it gives you the ability to set both the foundational side of music as well as some really great improvisation that I've noticed on your latest album. You take full liberty with. It's such a fluid instrument for you for something so monolithic.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, part of the reason why I did this recording is to bring awareness to musicians like me who suffer from musicians' focal dystonia, which is a neurological movement disorder. It's under the umbrella of Parkinsonism. However, it's not Parkinson's, but it is neurological. So it's not something that you can, think your way out of, per se. It's not psychological, it's neurological. It'd be like asking somebody with Parkinson's, stop shaking. It's all in your head.
Right.
Which you would never do. And the same holds true with musicians' dystonia. It affects millions of musicians worldwide, and there's very little known about it. And so it took a tremendous amount of effort and I would say courage to complete this recording and make it sound as like I'm very happy with it. I think I managed to cheat dystonia in the process of this recording, and I really feel I succeeded. I'm just so excited, and the musicians on this recording are superb. I have no other word. They're absolutely the best of the best that you can get, and they were all excited to play on this recording. Like how lucky am I? I pinch myself.
Well, and you're describing yourself as both a conductor, a ringleader, a collaborator in every respect to bring these musicians together. That's never easy, as you know, onto itself, to get accomplished, renowned folks all to coordinate for that short time.
Took me 2 years.
It took you time, and you've been doing this now for such a significant amount of time. I looked up some of your influences, and of course, I wasn't surprised to find your love for Miles Davis and Herbie Hancock. But what fascinated me in listening to your latest release is how so much of your material reminds me of my personal favorite growing up, which was the Mahavishnu Orchestra, John McLaughlin, and the drumming of Billy Cobham, and the fact that they streamlined all the influence of those great, I'm trying to remember some of the names they had, Jean-Luc Ponty, Jan Hammer. They had all these musicians, again, that he surrounded himself with, and he kind of reminds me of you that way. He was the lead guitarist, you're the lead tuba player, but in the end, what you're doing is making sure you're surrounded by this great fusion and influence of so many progressive elements. I mean, your album just pops in that regard with some really great production value, I might add. How proud are you with being able to accomplish that by bringing everyone together and paying homage to what you love to play?
Well, it was great, and the guys all loved my writing, and they were just like in awe of Joey Berkeley's arrangements. He did 3 amazing arrangements on the recording, and they were all really, really dedicated to getting it right and getting it to sound good. And it took some time to find just the right musicians. And so I enlisted a lot of my old Humber College chums, which I thought would be fun because I went on to study at Humber, and so many great musicians in Toronto, New York City, Ottawa, they all came from Humber. So it was really fun to get some of my old chums on board. Mark Kelso, who is just a world-class drummer, and Pat Kilbride just blew my mind as well on bass. And Norm Glode, who is, he's here in Ottawa, wonderful musician. He does all the upright bass playing in the recording, and he plays harmonica, and he recorded a great deal of the recording, and he was just such a gift, so patient and really knows his stuff. And his harmonica solo on my composition called Her is absolutely haunting. It's beautiful.
And layered so nicely in the recording. I mean, you have to be so thrilled that you were able to get the right studio environment to replicate so many layered instruments. That's never an easy thing. In the live experience, everybody loves it because louder is better in many respects. But on a studio album, did you find it challenging to make sure that you and all the different elements that you included were heard in the balance that you were searching for as a composer?
It was a challenge because, of course, the Norm did the mix on three of the pieces, four actually. And the other three, which were much more layered, like Come to Me and Soul Sister, but Come to Me especially because there's there's full horns and full rhythm section and voice and background vocals and tuba. Like it's a monumental tune. But I think we served it well. I think everybody is well represented and it makes sense in the overall. It's very complex, this arrangement. Come to Me I'm talking about, but it still features everyone and you're still able to hear everyone, and it doesn't get lost in this, like the story doesn't get lost with it at the same time. So I found that really it was really fun. It was really fun to stretch out vocally on it.
And you've worked with other collaborators where it's their project, or a publicist who comes to you and wants you to be part of something different and unique. But when it comes to your own material, I do love the fact that you have full control over every facet of its construction. How important is that for you? Do you find that you're a better lone wolf in that regard, or you prefer to be a team player, a cog in the wheel? What's Kim's mentality when it comes to the most optimal conditions for you to be able to ply your craft and be the musician that you are?
Those are great questions. I think I'm both. I mean, I really want to stay true to the sound that I wanted to achieve for the particular compositions that I wrote. But at the same time, these musicians are, like I hang on their every word, and I certainly take their advice to heart. And so I had a lot of, back and forth with Joey Berkeley in New York and Norm Glode here. And we really, worked through some things, and there were some, things to iron out. Nothing with the musicians. I mean, they were just all so great and easy to work with. The ones that are on the recording are just wonderful.
Kim, is it my imagination, or does it seem that post-COVID, especially in places like Ontario, across our country, that there's been this real renaissance of talent, of confidence for musicians who are stepping out and saying, I have a song to sing, notes to play. I want to be part of something bigger than myself to amplify it, make it better in this world. Have you noticed that since we had to endure what was a period of no festivals, no shows, no live performances? Maybe talk to my audience and to me a little bit about what that was like, going through that as someone who thrives on live experience, who literally lives for the moment and the adrenaline and passion of performing in front of people.
Well, I mean, it was tough, but my COVID started long before everyone else in terms of the isolation because of my dystonia diagnosis. So, there were a lot of people complaining, oh, we don't get to play, and I'm depressed and I'm sad. And I thought, well, you will get to play again. I may not. It was a tough thing. And so I thought, well, no, I can write and I can do this. And I didn't think I'd be able to, actually. But I got a lot of encouragement from a lot of the musicians on this project, and we went for it. And I had really hoped that there would be this big renaissance after COVID, much like after the Spanish flu, when we had, the Charleston and the new dances and new music and new hairstyles, new fashion. And I'm still seeing a lot of people walking around in their pajama pants in public. So there is a renaissance musically in some ways, but in other ways I find, we got to step this up and really celebrate the arts, especially in Canada, which I think there's so much talent in this country. And here we are, putting it out there.
Putting it out there at a time when confidence and people's insecurity usually prevents them from stepping out and trying new things. It also doesn't help, I think, that there just aren't as many places and shows and festivals and venues that people can go to and rely on. You, of course, thrive on that. You love performing live. Tell me about why that is. What does performing live really do for you? And where are some of the places or festivals you like going to that gives you a chance to really shine, because you know you're surrounded by people who are literally looking out for you to add something to their experience musically?
Well, I mean, I did a lot of shows at the National Arts Center here in Ottawa, at a venue called the Fourth Stage, and many of them were my own performances, and it's that meeting of minds with both the musicians that you're working with and connecting with the audience. You know, I think our job as singers is to tell a story, or instrumentalists too, to be able to tell a story that people can identify with and connect with and feel something. You know, I'm often flattered if somebody cries if they hear one of my songs, you know. I think I've done my job. Or if they laugh, you know, I've done my job. You know, I've let somebody connect with something and feel something very deeply. And I think that's what artists are for.
Well, especially when the story is told by an artist that's gone through adversity. And obviously, as someone who struggled with vocal dystonia, given the very neurological reality of what it is, there must have been some really difficult nights where the mind was willing, but the body was not, as they say. Today, as a musician who goes out and performs in front of people and has obligations on her shoulders, how do you balance it? What's your meditation that you incorporate that keeps you both healthy and sane through really stressful times?
Well, you know, you have to stay relaxed and you have to be kind to yourself, you know, and realize that it's not you, it's the dystonia. And that, you know, there's some days that'll be good and some days won't. And that's the reality. The gift for me was to be able to express myself in the studio, because there wasn't, on a performance stage right now, it's very, very difficult for me to perform with my movement disorder. So being in the studio, you know, you can get a couple of tries at it, you know, to get it just right. And so that was very freeing for me, to be able to do that. But yes, it is a mindset, and you have to stay really focused and yet stay really relaxed and just focus on the music, focus on the story, what you're trying to express.
How's the industry treated you in your journey? Because you do transcend multiple decades of performances and creativity. Where are you at with the way that you feel about the music industry today? And is having all this control over your own studio release translate into that kind of empowerment later on the road, where you know that you've constructed everything and aren't reliant on someone to tell you, hey, Kim, we want you to write songs that sound like this, or we want you to play in places that look like that?
You know, this recording has been very validating for me as a musician, as a vocalist, as a woman tuba player. It wasn't always that easy. You know, I had a lot of very difficult situations as a young tuba player, and being a woman, and it did leave some scars, I'm not going to lie. But my love for music and playing music and expressing myself musically, I can't not. So it overrode any kind of obstacle that any, shall I say, lesser evolved person presented me with.
It sounds to me like there's an indomitable will. There has to be. I've noticed in the last few interviews I've had with female musicians, I'm thinking back to speaking with Bree Taylor. I'm thinking back to speaking with Biff Naked. These are women of different generations who've gone through either physical or mental hardships. Is that a specific thing to women, do you think? Or is that just a coincidence? Because when a woman is successful, it seems like the road is never an easy one, that in the end there has to be some adversity to overcome. Do you feel that? Do you feel like you didn't give up when maybe you felt you should, and as a result now you've learned from that experience and are showing that to other men and women, male and female musicians, that hey, you may not have been born perfectly in your ambitions, but that doesn't mean you stop when you have talent.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I would love to live long enough to see the playing field just leveled for once. And to see that, if a woman wants to play whatever she wants to play or sing whatever she wants to sing, that's not an issue. That she's a musician, not a woman musician. Unfortunately, that's still not the case, but it's not nearly as bad as it was when I started out as a tuba player. There was one time where I had a particularly difficult and traumatic experience, and I put the horn in the case for 2 weeks because I thought, if I have to go through this every time I want to play my horn, I don't want to do it anymore. And I was in my 20s. What a terrible thing to do to a young musician. But there you have it. I pulled it back out, and I got a lot of encouragement by a man named Howard Cable, who is one of Canada's treasures. He was known as the Mozart of Canada. He was a wonderful composer, arranger. He was the musical director of the Royal York Hotel for many, many years. And he was also a feminist. And he encouraged me to pull that horn out of the case again, because if I don't, they've won. And that was it. And so I kept going. I miss him. I miss him forever, that guy. He was just wonderful. He died at 96 years old. And I think it's December 15th is his birthday, actually. So it was yesterday. And yeah, I think of him often. He was a dear friend.
And influenced you in such a way that you didn't give up.
Yeah,
you didn't give up.
At Humber. He was on the faculty at Humber College. And he took me aside and he said, I see something in you. And that, when you have a musical mentor like that, it stays with you forever,
It does. It's like the ultimate muse.
Yes.
Someone in your life that you'll almost be letting down if you don't fulfill what they see in you.
Exactly. And the same thing happened with J.P. Elaine, who is a wonderful piano player, and he plays on 3 of my compositions on the record. And he's in his 80s. He came out of retirement to play on this recording, and he taught me so much. We worked together for many, many years here in Ottawa, and he is a monster piano player and still is. I couldn't believe how well he played, and it was such a joy to have him on this recording, because I wrote one of the pieces for him, and to have him actually play on the recording as I had hoped. But he's getting up there, and it wasn't guaranteed that he would play, but he did, and he sounds great on it. Yeah.
Well, your recordings sound great. I went through your discography, and I thought it was my imagination, but the truth is, it seems like with every release, you're trying to almost outdo yourself in the sophistication of the music and the quality of the recordings. Is that a conscious thing? Do you go into your design for new concepts and new songs and think to yourself, well, I've done that, so now I really want to try something I haven't done before? Because Soul Sister, you mentioned, can't get over the fact that that is such a throwback to those body-rich, dissonant days of jazz and fusion mixed mixed together, and then you get a little bit of 70s in there, and the way you're singing it almost feels like the irreverent 90s. There's a real multi-generational feel as I think your material ages, and that's a credit to the way that you're evolving as a musician. Do you feel that when you go into the studio consciously, that I'm going to do something I've never done before?
Well, every time you go into the studio, you've done something you've never done before, right? And in this case, this recording is all my original compositions. So this is a big step up for me. And, it's a risk, but I'm just so, I'm so inspired and grateful for the positive response of it. It's just been incredible. I'm getting all these great reviews, and really top shelf musicians are, sending me messages going, Kim, wow, I had no idea, So it's been really great that way. And I think, every time you go into the studio, you want to do your very best. And when you're working with musicians of this caliber, it morphs and evolves into something far better than you could possibly have imagined on your own, So it's a melding of colors like a paint palette.
And even the name is an interpretation. Many people will come across and say, the Latin Jazz Fusion Project. What does that even mean? For them, it's like you're inviting them to come in and learn about all the influences you've had. And I can't get over the fact again that when I listen to your tracks on the album, I think to myself, your tuba is one moment a foundational element where it's always in the background, and then it disappears for a while, and then it comes back, and you don't really understand to listen for that. Most people don't listen for a tuba, right? They
Yes.
listen for guitar strings, they listen for drum beats, they listen for keyboard notes. How fascinating is it when people come across you and you're a teacher, you're a hairstylist, you do a lot of things, but I bet when they put in the track or they listen to your music and stream it for the first time, they probably come to you and say, oh my goodness, I had no idea that's what you do, that's what you sound like.
Yeah, they do say that, actually. A lot of people have said that to me. They're like, oh my gosh, this is a paradigm shift. You did my hair last week, and then I listened to your CD and I was blown out of the water, It's been really wonderful that way. And it just feels really good to be doing this and to have released this and had the positive response that I have.
So what have you got in closing? I want my audience to appreciate what you have on the horizon. What does the Christmas season look like for you, and what are your plans in 2026 as a musician, as it applies to both touring and also just philosophically, what might be going on in your mind and what you got planned for the new year?
I think my big focus is going to be to write some more, because I would like to record another CD. If finances and things align properly. I want to write music that inspires people. I think we need a lot more light in this world, and I think it's always been historically, in my opinion, music. Cultures in history have been remembered for either their wars or their art, and I'm hoping that the latter will prevail. And so I think it's up to us as musicians to put out music that inspires and celebrates the good aspects of the human condition, the true aspects of a human. And so that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to go to Toronto this holiday and spend it with my sister, who I wrote Soul Sista for, and just enjoy the holidays. Make Ukrainian pyroghe. We're Ukrainian, so we're celebrating that as well, about our heritage and culture, and then back here to write and play my tuba and see what I come up with for the coming year.
Isn't it fascinating with music? It's always East meets West. It's always some form of, whether it's, Slavonic music in the East or Aboriginal music in the West, it all seems to kind of balance itself in inspiration. And I think many of the new listeners and those who come across your work will respect that. Your new album is just phenomenal. And I appreciate the fact that you need resources to produce it. It doesn't sound that great by its own. It takes a lot of people and equipment and time and blood, sweat, and tears. Is that maybe something you'd like to see going down the road become easier for some musicians? Because you've been fortunate to produce these albums, but you and I can only imagine how many talented people can't, because they just don't lack, they simply lack the resources to do so and have to work 9 to 5 standard jobs.
Yeah, I was very blessed to receive a grant from the Ottawa Arts Funding Program for this recording. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to have recorded this. I wouldn't have been able to afford it. Yes, there needs to be that, and there needs to be a respectful monetization of musicians' work, which is not happening right now. And it has to change. And I'm not sure exactly how we can fight it, but musicians deserve to be paid for their work. I'm adamant about that. Just like anybody else,
There has to be a dignity attached with it by its very nature. It's a creative pursuit. It's something that is something coming from nothing. And to not incentivize people with the dignity of making sure that they're looked after financially, it's hard to accomplish anything, let alone go into a studio and actually publish your work.
Well, I think even further than that, I mean, no one else is expected to go to work and do their very best for an entire week and then say, we're only going to pay you 0.01% of what your work is worth. I mean, you need, I think it's like 500,000 streams to make minimum wage for 1 week. That's absurd. That's unacceptable.
Absolutely.
That's despicable. And it needs to change. And maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot by saying that, but I have to say it. We are musicians. Some people are doctors, some people are lawyers. They deserve to be paid for their work. So do we. This is our job. We don't do it for free. We don't do it for, charity, although we do. Musicians do a tremendous amount for charity, far more than adequately paid people, I would say. But that's not the point. This is our job, and we deserve to be paid for it.
That's very inspirational, especially to fellow musicians. So when you say whether you'll be, what was the expression you used, whether you'll be hurting yourself by saying this, on the contrary, I think you'll be influencing and empowering like-minded people. And I think that's what all musicians really share in common, and why even when the industry itself bottomed out in its lack of support and integrity with musicians, they always keep theirs. And I think anyone who will come across your work and your likeness will see that. Great success down the road, continued success, and please keep inspiring people the way you have. I think you'll find that 2026 might be the best year yet in that regard for you.
I have a good feeling about 2026 and this recording, and I'm just so excited to see where it's going to take me.
I will always be there for you. So this song is to let you know, sister, you're my rock. I love you so.